Introduction. Welcome to 100 Mind-Blowing Football Facts, a collection of stories so wild you'll be asking, wait, did that really happen? From impossible comebacks to bizarre rule quirks, from record-breaking feats to plays so shocking they defy logic, this audiobook is packed with tales that will change the way you see the game. Have you ever heard about the Super Bowl that almost lost its trophy? Or the time an NFL player celebrated too early and cost his team the game? What about the bizarre rule that let a team score points without ever touching the football? These are just a few of the insane moments waiting for you inside. Each fact has been carefully chosen to surprise, entertain, and maybe even leave your football-loving friends speechless. Whether you're here to relive some of the sport's craziest moments, discover hidden gems of NFL history, or just pick up a few mind-blowing conversation starters, this audiobook has something for you. Listen straight through from start to finish, or jump to any chapter that catches your interest. There's no wrong way to experience this ride through football's most shocking, hilarious, and unbelievable moments. So kick back, get comfortable, and let's dive into the wildest stories the gridiron has ever seen. Who knows? By the end, you might have a few new favorites to share. Let's kick things off. The longest NFL game ever played. The longest game in NFL history lasted 82 minutes and 40 seconds of game time, going into double overtime. On Christmas Day in 1971, the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs battled in an epic playoff showdown that stretched beyond the standard 60-minute regulation time. The game finally ended when Dolphins kicker Garo Yepremian drilled a game-winning field goal in the second overtime, giving Miami a 27-24 victory. Players were completely exhausted, and many had to receive IV fluids after the grueling contest. To this day, no NFL game has gone longer. The $1 purchase that created an NFL dynasty. The New England Patriots were once sold for just $1 and later became one of the NFL's most dominant franchises. In 1971, businessman Billy Sullivan acquired the Boston Patriots, as they were known at the time, for a symbolic $1 fee when the team joined the newly formed AFC East. The catch? He also had to take on the team's $600,000 in debt. While the franchise struggled for decades, it would later become an NFL powerhouse under Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, winning 6 Super Bowls and redefining modern football dominance. Not bad for a $1 investment. The Super Bowl ring that took a swim. A New England Patriots Super Bowl ring once ended up at the bottom of the ocean, thanks to Vladimir Putin. In 2005, Patriots owner Robert Kraft met Russian President Vladimir Putin and showed him his newly earned Super Bowl 39 championship ring. According to Kraft, Putin admired the ring, tried it on, and then put it in his pocket and walked away. Despite protests, the ring was never returned, and the Patriots owner was reportedly encouraged by the U.S. government to let it go. To this day, the ring remains in the Kremlin's possession. The quarterback who played with a broken leg. NFL legend Jack Youngblood once played an entire Super Bowl and 2 more playoff games with a broken leg. During the 1979 playoffs, the Los Angeles Rams' star defensive end fractured his left fibula in a divisional round game. Instead of sitting out, he taped it up and kept playing, helping his team reach Super Bowl 14 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Incredibly, after the Super Bowl, he also played in the Pro Bowl with the same broken leg. Youngblood's toughness is the stuff of football legend, proving that some players are just built differently. the Super Bowl that almost had no halftime show. Super Bowl I was so new that the halftime show was almost an afterthought, and it had nothing to do with music. When the first ever Super Bowl took place on January 15th, 1967, between the Green Bay Packers and Kansas City Chiefs, the concept of a flashy halftime show didn't exist yet. Instead of a major music act, the entertainment featured 2 marching bands, a trumpet player, and 300 pigeons released into the air. The game itself wasn't even sold out. Decades later, the Super Bowl halftime show has become one of the most watched events in the world, with performances by legends like Michael Jackson, Prince, and Beyoncé. The game that caused an earthquake. An NFL crowd once got so loud that it caused an actual earthquake. On January 8, 2011, during a playoff game between the Seattle Seahawks and the New Orleans Saints, running back Marshawn Lynch broke free for an electrifying 67-yard touchdown run, shaking off multiple defenders in a play that would be forever known as Beast Quake. The crowd at Lumen Field, then called Quest Field, erupted with such force that a local seismometer detected earthquake-like activity. Scientists later confirmed that Seahawks fans had actually triggered a small seismic event, proving that the 12th man isn't just loud, they're literally ground-shaking. The NFL team that drafted a player who didn't exist. In one of the greatest pranks in football history, an NFL team once drafted a completely fake player. In 1974, the New Orleans Saints were in desperate need of defensive talent, so a group of coaches and staff members decided to have a little fun. As a joke, they submitted the name John T. Doe from Southwest Eastern State as their 11th round draft pick. The league almost approved the selection before realizing that neither the player nor the college even existed. The prank nearly made it into NFL history books before officials caught on and voided the pick. The time an NFL game had no kickoff. In 1998, the NFL experimented with a game that started without a kickoff, something that had never happened before or since. During a preseason game between the San Francisco 49ers and Denver Broncos, the league tested a bizarre rule change. Instead of a kickoff, the team that won the coin toss simply started with the ball at their own 30-yard line. The experiment was meant to improve player safety, but fans and coaches hated it. The NFL quickly scrapped the idea, and every game since has started with a kickoff, just as football fans love it. The NFL team that had to wear borrowed jerseys. An NFL team once had to borrow uniforms from their opponent just to play the game. In 1943, the Chicago Cardinals, now the Arizona Cardinals, arrived for a road game against the Washington Redskins, now the Washington Commanders, only to realize they had accidentally left their jerseys behind. With no spare uniforms available, Washington had to lend them extra jerseys just so the game could proceed. It's one of the rare times in NFL history where a team played a game wearing their opponent's gear. Talk about an identity crisis. The coach who got traded for a draft pick. An NFL team once traded away their head coach in exchange for a first-round draft pick. In 2002, the Oakland Raiders had a rising coaching star in John Gruden. But when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers desperately wanted him as their head coach, they pulled off an unprecedented trade. Tampa Bay sent Oakland 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million just to acquire Gruden. The gamble paid off. 1 year later, he led the Buccaneers to their first ever Super Bowl victory against the Raiders. The snowplow game that changed NFL history. A snowplow driver once decided the outcome of an NFL game by clearing a path for a game-winning field goal. During a blizzard in 1982, the New England Patriots and Miami Dolphins were locked in a scoreless battle on a frozen, snow-covered field. Late in the fourth quarter, Patriots coach Ron Meyer called in a stadium worker driving a snowplow to clear a perfect spot for kicker John Smith. With the path cleared, Smith nailed the game's only points, leading New England to a 3-0 victory. Miami was furious, but the league had no rule against it at the time. The NFL quickly banned the use of on-field snowplows in future games, but the win still counted. The NFL game that had to be played in a blizzard. One of the snowiest games in NFL history saw players literally disappearing under the snow. On December 10th, 2017, the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts faced off in a game that became an instant classic, the Snow Bowl. Over 8 inches of snow fell during the game, making it nearly impossible to see the field. Players struggled to run. Referees could barely see the yard lines, and the football often disappeared into the snow. Despite the chaos, the game ended in dramatic fashion, with Bills running back LaShawn McCoy plowing through the snow for a game-winning touchdown in overtime. The quarterback who played for 2 teams in one day. An NFL player once suited up for 2 different teams on the same day. On September 13th, 1995, quarterback Jeff Blake was released by the Cincinnati Bengals in the morning. Hours later, he was claimed off waivers by the New Orleans Saints, and by that evening, he was already on the field practicing with his new team. While he didn't play in a game that day, he holds the rare distinction of being on 2 active rosters in a single calendar day, a feat nearly impossible under today's NFL rules. The Gatorade shower was an accidental tradition. The famous Gatorade shower started as a prank. Now it's a championship tradition. In 1984, the New York Giants were on a winning streak when defensive tackle Jim Burt decided to play a prank on head coach Bill Parcells. After a big victory, Burt and teammate Harry Carson dumped an entire cooler of Gatorade over Parcells' head. The moment was caught on camera, and soon other teams started copying the tradition. Now, a Gatorade shower is almost guaranteed after every Super Bowl, forever cementing its place in NFL history, all thanks to a prank. The Super Bowl that couldn't be called Super. The first Super Bowl wasn't even called the Super Bowl. When the Green Bay Packers and Kansas City Chiefs faced off in the first ever championship game in 1967, it was officially named the AFL-NFL World Championship Game. The name Super Bowl was actually coined as a joke by Kansas City Chiefs owner Lamar Hunt, inspired by his kid's Super Bowl toy. The league initially rejected the name, but by Super Bowl III it became the official title. And now, it's one of the most recognized sporting events in the world. The time the NFL used a white football. The NFL once played games with a white football, and it was as weird as it sounds. In the 1940s and early 1950s, the league experimented with using a white football for night games to improve visibility under poor lighting conditions. The ball even had black stripes to make it easier to track. However, once stadium lighting technology improved, the NFL scrapped the idea. Today, the standard brown leather football is iconic, but for a brief time, the league had a completely different look under the lights. The NFL's shortest ever game. The shortest game in NFL history lasted just 2 hours and 29 minutes. Unheard of in today's football. On November 4th, 1996, the San Diego Chargers and the Indianapolis Colts played an incredibly fast-paced game with very few penalties, almost no clock stoppages, and a heavy focus on the running game. The Colts won 10-6, and the game wrapped up in under 2.5 hours. By comparison, modern NFL games average over 3 hours and 10 minutes, making this one a true speed run in football history. The time an NFL game had a 2-minute halftime. An NFL game once had a halftime break of just 2 minutes. On November 17, 1991, the Los Angeles Raiders faced the San Diego Chargers in a game that had an electrical malfunction at the stadium. The stadium lights went out, causing a 55-minute delay in the first half. To keep the game from running too long, officials decided to shorten halftime from the usual 12 minutes to just 2 minutes. Players barely had time to catch their breath before being sent back onto the field, making it the shortest halftime in NFL history. The kicker who never kicked a football before the NFL. An NFL kicker once made a 40-yard field goal in a game without ever kicking a football before joining the league. In 1961, the Washington Redskins signed Charlie Gogolak, a soccer player who had never played football in his life. Despite having zero experience with field goals, his soccer-style approach revolutionized the way kicking was done in the NFL. Before him, kickers mostly used a straight-on toe kick technique, but after seeing his accuracy and power, teams started recruiting more soccer players, leading to the modern side foot kicking style used in the NFL today. The player who got a penalty for celebrating too soon. An NFL player once started celebrating a touchdown before he even crossed the goal line. In 2008, wide receiver Deshaun Jackson was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles when he caught a long pass and sprinted toward the end zone. But just before crossing the goal line, he flipped the ball behind him in celebration without actually scoring. Officials ruled the play dead at the 1-yard line, and the touchdown didn't count. Luckily, the Eagles still won, but Jackson's blunder remains one of the most famous premature celebrations in NFL history. The NFL game that ended in a tie because it got too dark. An NFL game once ended in a tie, not because of the score, but because the sun went down. On November 4th, 1921, the Rochester Jeffersons and the Washington Senators faced off in a late afternoon game. The problem? There were no stadium lights back then. As the sun set, the field became too dark to continue playing. With no way to see the ball or the players, the referees had no choice but to call the game a draw. It remains one of the strangest reasons for a game to end in NFL history. The Super Bowl that had a power outage. The biggest game of the year once went completely dark right in the middle of play. During Super Bowl 47 in 2013, the Baltimore Ravens were dominating the San Francisco 49ers when suddenly the power in the stadium went out. For 34 minutes, players stood around in near darkness as engineers scrambled to fix the issue. The bizarre blackout completely changed the momentum. Before the power outage, the Ravens led 28-6. After it, the 49ers mounted a furious comeback, nearly winning the game before falling 34-31. It remains one of the most unexpected Super Bowl moments ever. The NFL team that once had no name. For a full season, an NFL team played without an official name. In 2020, after retiring their previous team name, the Washington Redskins temporarily rebranded as the Washington Football Team while searching for a permanent identity. For 2 full seasons, 2020 and 2021, they played without a mascot, logo, or traditional branding, just a generic name and simple uniforms. In 2022, they officially became the Washington Commanders, but for a while, they were simply the football team, a bizarre moment in NFL history. The time a punter kicked an NFL record backward. An NFL punter once accidentally set a record for the shortest punt ever by kicking the ball backward. During a 1969 game, New York Jets punter Steve O'Neill attempted a routine punt deep in his own territory, but disaster struck when the ball hit off the side of his foot, sending it backward for -7 yards. Instead of flipping the field, the play pinned his own team even closer to the goal line, making it one of the most embarrassing punts in NFL history. To this day, it's considered the shortest punt ever recorded in a regular season game. The NFL game that had to be stopped for a balloon release. An NFL game was once delayed because thousands of balloons filled the field. In 1983, the Seattle Seahawks planned a massive pre-game balloon release as part of their home opener celebration. The problem? The wind didn't cooperate. Instead of floating away, the balloons drifted straight down onto the field, covering the turf and stopping play. Referees had to delay the game while staff and players popped and cleared thousands of balloons just so the game could continue. It remains one of the strangest game delays in NFL history. The NFL team that once had a live bear as a mascot. One NFL team once had a real live bear as their official mascot. In the 1940s, the Chicago Bears decided to fully embrace their name by bringing an actual bear cub to games. Named Joan, the young bear was often seen roaming the sidelines on a leash. As Joan grew bigger and less manageable, the team realized having a full-grown bear near players and fans wasn't the best idea. Eventually, they retired the live mascot and opted for a costumed version instead, probably a safer choice. The time a referee forgot his mic was on. An NFL referee once accidentally broadcasted his private conversation to an entire stadium. During a 1999 game between the Chicago Bears and Detroit Lions, referee Walt Coleman left his microphone on while discussing a penalty with another official. Instead of just the crew hearing it, the entire stadium and millions of TV viewers heard them debating whether the call was correct. The incident led to one of the funniest moments in NFL history, as fans got a rare, uncensored look at how referees make their decisions, live and unfiltered. The NFL game that had a marching band play during a play. An NFL game once had a marching band on the field while the game was still going. In 1982, during the big game between Stanford and Cal, the Stanford marching band stormed onto the field prematurely, thinking the game was over. The problem? It wasn't. Cal players continued running the ball downfield, dodging band members and instruments before scoring one of the most famous touchdowns in football history. Known simply as the play, this bizarre moment remains one of the wildest finishes ever seen on a football field. The time an NFL player retired at halftime. An NFL player once quit football in the middle of a game, never to return. During a 2018 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Chargers, veteran cornerback Vontae Davis walked into the locker room at halftime and never came back. He later announced his retirement on the spot, shocking teammates and coaches. Davis later explained that he realized his body just couldn't take it anymore and decided he was done, right then and there. To this day, it remains one of the most unexpected retirements in NFL history. The time an NFL game was delayed by a skydiver. An NFL game was once delayed because a skydiver landed on the wrong field. During a 1994 game between the Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers, a skydiver was scheduled to land at a nearby event, but instead, he drifted off course and parachuted straight onto the field at Soldier Field. Players, referees, and fans were stunned as the unexpected guest touched down in the middle of the action. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the game had to be briefly stopped until the skydiver was escorted off the field. The NFL player who lost a Super Bowl ring at the bottom of a lake. An NFL player once dropped his Super Bowl ring into a lake, and it stayed there for years. In 2010, Green Bay Packers legend Jerry Kramer accidentally lost his Super Bowl I championship ring while fishing. The ring slipped off his finger and sank to the bottom of a lake, seemingly lost forever. Miraculously, over 25 years later, a diver searching the area found the ring buried in the mud. Kramer was reunited with his long-lost prize, proving that some treasures really do come back. The NFL player who played every position in one game. One player once played every single position in a single NFL game. In 1943, Hall of Famer Chuck Bednarik of the Philadelphia Eagles pulled off one of the most legendary feats in football history. He played offense, defense, special teams, and even kicked the ball during the same game. Known as the last true Iron Man of the NFL, Bednarik regularly played both sides of the ball in an era when substitutes were rare. But in this game, he did everything. No modern player has ever come close to matching this all-around performance. The time an NFL game was played on an 80-yard field. An NFL game was once played on a shortened 80-yard field. In 2019, the Green Bay Packers and Oakland Raiders were set to play a preseason game in Winnipeg, Canada, but just before kickoff, officials discovered that the goalposts had been moved from a CFL field configuration, leaving dangerous holes in the end zone turf. To avoid injuries, the teams agreed to shorten the field from 100 yards to 80 yards, removing kickoffs and adjusting the rules on the fly. It remains one of the strangest field modifications in NFL history. The NFL game that ended because a team ran out of quarterbacks. An NFL team once ran out of quarterbacks mid-game and had to finish without one. In 2020, the Denver Broncos faced a nightmare scenario when all of their quarterbacks were ruled ineligible due to COVID-19 protocols just a day before their game against the New Orleans Saints. With no quarterbacks available, the Broncos were forced to start Kendall Hinton, a practice squad wide receiver who had played some quarterback in college. The result? A 31-3 loss, with Hinton completing just one pass for 13 yards. It was one of the most bizarre games in NFL history, proving just how important a good QB really is. The time an NFL team missed the start of their own Super Bowl. An NFL team once showed up late to the Super Bowl, almost delaying the game. Before Super Bowl I in 1967, the Kansas City Chiefs were supposed to arrive at the stadium well in advance for warm-ups and media coverage. But due to miscommunication and heavy traffic, the team's buses were delayed on the way to the stadium. By the time they arrived, the Green Bay Packers were already fully dressed and warming up, while the Chiefs were still scrambling to get ready. They made it just in time, but they ended up losing 35-10. Moral of the story, never be late to the biggest game of your life. The NFL game that ended in a 0-0 tie. An NFL game once ended with no points scored by either team. In 1943, the Detroit Lions and New York Giants faced off in a game so defensive and sloppy that neither team could put up a single point. The game ended in a 0-0 tie, making it one of the rarest final scores in league history. Since then, the NFL has never had another scoreless game, making this the last time fans sat through 60 minutes of football without a single point. The time a team accidentally won a game. An NFL team once tried to lose on purpose, but ended up winning by mistake. In 2020, the New York Jets were in prime position to land the #1 overall draft pick and the rights to select quarterback Trevor Lawrence by finishing with the worst record in the league. Late in the season, they faced the Los Angeles Rams and were expected to lose. However, despite their fans hoping for a loss, the Jets accidentally played too well and won the game. The unexpected victory cost them the top draft pick, which went to the Jacksonville Jaguars instead. Jets fans were furious, calling it the win that shouldn't have happened. The NFL player who played without a helmet. An NFL player once refused to wear a helmet even after they became mandatory. In 1943, Hall of Fame quarterback Sammy Baugh of the Washington Redskins was known for his toughness, but he took it to another level when he continued playing without a helmet even after the NFL required them. Baugh argued that helmets were uncomfortable and restricted his vision, so he flat out refused to wear one. Eventually, the league cracked down on the rule, forcing him to put one on. Today, it's impossible to imagine the game without helmets, but for a while, one of the league's greatest players went without. The time a fan caught their own team's kick. An NFL fan once caught a kickoff meant for the opposing team. During a 2012 game between the Buffalo Bills and Seattle Seahawks, kicker Stephen Hauschka booted a kickoff so far that it cleared the entire end zone and landed straight into the hands of a fan in the stands. The problem? The fan was wearing a Buffalo Bills jersey, meaning they technically caught the kickoff intended for the Seahawks. While it didn't count as a play, it was a rare moment where a fan had better hands than the opposing returner. The time an NFL team scored without touching the ball. An NFL team once put points on the board without ever touching the football. During a 2013 game between the San Francisco 49ers and Green Bay Packers, the Packers won the coin toss and elected to defer, meaning they would kick off to start the game. But in a bizarre turn of events, the 49ers chose to defend instead of receive, forcing the Packers to kick off again to start both halves. This meant the 49ers never touched the ball before scoring their first points, thanks to a penalty on the opening kickoff that set up an easy field goal. It was one of the strangest starts to a game in NFL history. The only Super Bowl with no touchdowns. One Super Bowl was so defensive that not a single touchdown was scored. In Super Bowl 53, 2019, the New England Patriots and Los Angeles Rams battled in a game that turned into a defensive slugfest. The final score? 13-3, with the only touchdown coming in the fourth quarter. It became the lowest scoring Super Bowl in history, with punters seeing more action than the quarterbacks. While the game lacked fireworks, it proved that defense really can win championships. The time an NFL game had negative yardage. An NFL team once finished a game with negative total yards on offense. In -7-degree weather on November 11, 1991, the Cleveland Browns faced the Philadelphia Eagles in one of the most brutal defensive beatdowns in league history. The Eagles' defense completely shut down Cleveland's offense, holding them to a staggering -7 total yards for the entire game. It remains the worst offensive performance ever recorded in an NFL game, a stat the Browns would probably rather forget. The time an NFL coach punched another coach. An NFL head coach once punched an opposing coach in the middle of a game. During a heated matchup in 1956, legendary Green Bay Packers coach Vince Lombardi got into a sideline argument with Chicago Bears coach George Halas. The exchange escalated, and in the heat of the moment, Lombardi threw a punch. While the fight didn't last long, it only fueled the already intense rivalry between the Packers and Bears, one that remains one of the most bitter feuds in NFL history. The only perfect season in NFL history. Only one team in NFL history has ever won every single game, including the Super Bowl. In 1972, the Miami Dolphins accomplished what no other team has, a perfect 17-0 season. Led by coach Don Shula and quarterback Bob Grease, the Dolphins dominated the league and capped off their flawless run with a 14-7 victory over Washington in Super Bowl VII. To this day, the 72 Dolphins remain the only undefeated Super Bowl champions, and every year, surviving team members reportedly pop champagne whenever the last unbeaten team of a new season finally loses. The time an NFL player scored for the wrong team. An NFL player once ran the wrong way and scored a touchdown for the other team. In 1964, Minnesota Vikings defensive end Jim Marshall recovered a fumble against the San Francisco 49ers. Instead of running toward the 49ers end zone, he got turned around and sprinted 66 yards the wrong way into his own end zone. Thinking he had just scored, he spiked the ball in celebration, only to realize he had just gifted the 49ers 2 points on a safety. Despite the embarrassing mistake, the Vikings still won the game, and Marshall's wrong way run remains one of the most infamous blunders in NFL history. The time a Super Bowl MVP skipped Disney World. Every Super Bowl MVP is famous for saying, "I'm going to Disney World," except for one. After winning Super Bowl 43, 2009, Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Santonio Holmes was named MVP for his incredible game-winning touchdown catch. But instead of following tradition and heading to Disney World, Holmes turned down the trip. His reason? He wanted to go home and celebrate with his family instead. To this day, he remains one of the only MVPs to ever skip the iconic Disney parade. The time a game was won with a drop kick. An NFL player once scored with a drop kick, something that hadn't happened in over 60 years. In 2006, legendary quarterback Doug Flutie of the New England Patriots pulled off a move that hadn't been seen in the NFL since 1941. Instead of a regular extra point kick, Flutie drop-kicked the ball through the uprights, stunning fans and even some of his own teammates. The rare kick was legal, but had been completely forgotten in modern football. It was such a shocking moment that it remains the only successful drop kick in the NFL's Super Bowl era. The time a coin toss was decided by the sun. An NFL coin toss once had to be decided by the sun because the coin got lost. During a 1999 game between the Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears, the referee flipped the coin for the pre-game toss, but strong winds blew it away. The entire crew, along with players, scrambled to find it, but it had vanished into the grass. With no backup coin available, the officials determined the winner based on which side of the coin was last visible before it disappeared. It remains one of the strangest coin toss mishaps in NFL history. The NFL player who played with no toes. An NFL kicker once played his entire career without toes on his kicking foot. Tom Dempsey, who played in the NFL from 1969 to 1979, was born without fingers on his right hand and without toes on his right foot. But that didn't stop him from becoming a record-setting kicker. In 1970, Dempsey kicked a 63-yard field goal, an NFL record that stood for over 4 decades. He wore a special boot designed to compensate for his missing toes, and his legendary kick remains one of the most incredible feats in football history. The Super Bowl that almost didn't have a trophy. The Lombardi Trophy was once forgotten at the Super Bowl and nearly didn't make it to the ceremony. After Super Bowl 46, 2012, where the New York Giants defeated the New England Patriots, NFL officials realized they had left the trophy in a back room while preparing for the post-game celebration. A frantic rush ensued to retrieve it, and it was delivered just in time for the ceremony, preventing what would have been one of the most awkward moments in Super Bowl history. The NFL game that ended on a fair catch kick. An NFL team once won a game using a rare fair catch kick, something almost no one has ever seen. During a 1968 game between the San Francisco 49ers and Green Bay Packers, the 49ers were awarded a fair catch with just seconds left on the clock. Instead of running a play, they attempted a free kick from the spot of the fair catch, a legal but rarely used rule. Kicker Bruce Gossett drilled the 47-yard kick without a defense rushing him, securing an incredible victory. To this day, the fair catch kick remains one of the rarest ways to score in NFL history. The time a team scored 3 safeties in one game. An NFL team once scored 3 safeties in a single game, a record that still stands. On November 11, 1990, the Los Angeles Rams faced the New York Giants in a bizarre game where the Rams' defense pulled off an incredible rarity, forcing 3 safeties. Forcing just 1 safety in a game is rare enough, but 3? That had never happened before, and it hasn't happened since. The Rams still lost the game, but they hold the unique record for the most safeties ever scored in a single NFL matchup. The time a kicker played with a broken leg. An NFL kicker once kicked a game-winning field goal while playing on a broken leg. In 1970, Oakland Raiders kicker George Blanda was already a legend, but he cemented his place in history when he played through a fractured leg and still delivered clutch performances. Despite the injury, Blanda drilled a game-winning 48-yard field goal to defeat the Cleveland Browns. His toughness and longevity were unmatched. Blanda played in the NFL until he was 48 years old, making him one of the oldest players in league history. The time a touchdown was overturned, 19 hours later. An NFL team once lost a game because officials reversed a touchdown 19 hours after the game ended. On September 22, 2008, the Denver Broncos and San Diego Chargers played a thriller that ended in controversy. Late in the game, Denver quarterback Jay Cutler fumbled, but officials mistakenly ruled the play dead before the Chargers could recover. The Broncos went on to score and win the game 39-38, but the next day, the NFL admitted the call was wrong, and the play should have given the Chargers the win. Unfortunately, NFL rules don't allow for retroactive changes, so the result stood despite the league admitting the mistake. The NFL player who played in the league and served as a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. One NFL player went from the football field to the U.S. Supreme Court. Byron Whizzer White was a star running back in the 1930s, leading the league in rushing before putting his football career on hold to serve in World War II. After his military service, White pursued law, eventually being appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1962. He served for 31 years as a Supreme Court justice, making him the only former NFL player to ever sit on the highest court in the country. The time an NFL game was played without a single penalty. An NFL game once had 0 penalties, something almost unheard of today. On October 8, 1935, the Boston Redskins, now Washington Commanders, and the Chicago Bears played a game that went down as one of the cleanest in NFL history. Not a single flag was thrown the entire game, meaning no offsides, no holding, no personal fouls, nothing. Considering how modern games can rack up double-digit penalties, this game remains one of the rarest statistical oddities in football history. The time a player was traded for a helmet. An NFL player was once traded for a piece of equipment, a single helmet. During the 1930s, the Detroit Lions needed an extra helmet, and the Portsmouth Spartans, who later became the Lions, were short on cash. Instead of making a monetary deal, they agreed to trade a player in exchange for a helmet. The details of the trade are mostly lost to history, but it remains one of the most unusual trades in football, where a piece of gear was considered equal value to a human player. An NFL team scored a touchdown on every possession. One NFL team pulled off an impossible feat, scoring a touchdown on every single drive. In 2007, the New England Patriots faced the Washington Redskins in a game where they completely dominated from start to finish. The Patriots had 7 offensive possessions and scored 7 touchdowns, never once settling for a field goal or punting the ball. The final score, 52-7. It was one of the most flawless offensive performances in NFL history. The time an NFL game was played without a single pass. An NFL game once had 0 completed passes by either team, something that will likely never happen again. On November 29, 1971, the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets played in brutal conditions with howling winds and heavy snow. Instead of risking passes, both teams ran the ball the entire game. The Bills attempted 2 passes, both incomplete, while the Jets didn't even try one. The result? A 16-0 win for Buffalo, making it the last NFL game ever played without a single completed pass. The NFL player who returned after being pronounced dead. An NFL player was once declared dead, only to return to the league years later. In 1996, Detroit Lions linebacker Reggie Brown suffered a severe spinal cord injury on the field. He stopped breathing and was pronounced clinically dead before emergency responders revived him with CPR. Although his football career seemed over, Brown defied the odds by fully recovering and even attempted an NFL comeback. While he never played another down, his return to full health was nothing short of miraculous. The NFL game that had no punts. An NFL game once went the full 60 minutes without a single punt. On September 13, 1992, the Buffalo Bills and San Francisco 49ers played an offensive shootout where both teams moved the ball so efficiently that neither had to punt. The game featured 1,086 total yards of offense and ended with a 34-31 Bills victory. To this day, it remains one of the few NFL games ever played without a single fourth down kick. The NFL player who played with a detached retina. An NFL player finished a game without knowing he had a detached retina. In 1974, Hall of Fame defensive back Jack Tatum of the Oakland Raiders took a brutal hit during a game but continued playing. After the game, he mentioned his vision was blurry, and doctors discovered he had suffered a detached retina. Despite the injury, Tatum played the rest of the season before undergoing surgery, cementing his reputation as one of the toughest players in NFL history. The Super Bowl that had a streaker. A streaker once ran onto the field during the Super Bowl before security tackled him. During Super Bowl 38, 2004, infamous streaker Mark Roberts somehow snuck onto the field disguised as a referee. Just before kickoff, he stripped down and sprinted across the field in front of millions of viewers. Security quickly tackled him, and he was arrested, but his stunt became one of the most unexpected interruptions in Super Bowl history. The NFL game that had to be restarted. An NFL game was stopped and restarted because the referees forgot the rules. During a 1999 game between the Cleveland Browns and Jacksonville Jaguars, officials mistakenly ended the game too early after an incorrect replay ruling. Fans, thinking their team had been robbed, began throwing bottles onto the field, creating a dangerous situation. The NFL intervened, forcing players to return to the field to finish the game, after they had already gone to the locker rooms. It remains one of the only times in NFL history that a game was officially restarted. The coach who got Gatorade dumped before the game ended. A coach once had a Gatorade shower too early and almost lost the game. During Super Bowl 42, 2008, New York Giants players dumped Gatorade on coach Tom Coughlin with time still left on the clock. The Giants were leading the Patriots 17-14, but New England had one last chance to tie or win. Luckily for Coughlin, his team held on, and the Giants completed one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history. Had the Patriots scored, it would have been the most premature celebration ever. The time a player used stickum on his entire body. An NFL player once covered his entire body in stickum to catch passes more easily. In the 1970s, Raiders wide receiver Lester Hayes took advantage of the now banned stickum substance, which made his hands extra sticky. He used so much that it was visibly dripping off his arms, jersey, and even his helmet. Opponents complained, and in 1981, the NFL officially banned stickum, making it illegal for players to coat themselves in glue-like substances. The longest field goal that didn't count. An NFL kicker once made a record-breaking 76-yard field goal, but it didn't count. In 2017, kicker Matt Prater attempted a 76-yard field goal during halftime warm-ups of a Denver Broncos game. The kick was perfect, clearing the uprights with room to spare, but because it wasn't during an official game, it didn't go into the record books. The longest official field goal remains 64 yards, but Prater's warm-up bomb proves that kickers might be able to hit from even farther. The time a touchdown celebration cost a team the game. An NFL player once celebrated too early, and it cost his team the win. In 2008, the Cleveland Browns were on the verge of scoring a game-winning touchdown when wide receiver Dwayne Rudd made a huge mistake. Thinking the game was over, Rudd threw his helmet off in celebration, but there were still a few seconds left on the clock. The referees flagged him for unsportsmanlike conduct, moving the opposing team into field goal range. They made the kick, and Rudd's premature celebration turned a Browns win into a loss. The player who bet on himself and won big. An NFL player once turned down millions, then made even more. In 2016, quarterback Kirk Cousins was offered a long-term contract by the Washington Redskins, now Commanders, but he bet on himself instead. He chose to play under a one-year franchise tag, knowing he could earn more if he performed well. His gamble paid off. 2 years later, Cousins signed a fully guaranteed $84 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings, making him one of the highest-paid QBs in NFL history. The NFL team that drafted the wrong player. An NFL team once announced the wrong draft pick by mistake. In 2003, the Minnesota Vikings were on the clock with their first-round pick, but due to a communication error in their war room, they missed their selection deadline. This allowed two other teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Carolina Panthers, to jump ahead and make their picks first. The Vikings eventually drafted defensive tackle Kevin Williams, who turned out to be a star, but the embarrassing mistake remains one of the strangest draft blunders in NFL history. The time an NFL game had no kickoffs. An NFL game once went the entire 4 quarters without a single kickoff. In 1992, the Buffalo Bills faced the Seattle Seahawks in a game where every possession change was either a punt, turnover, or end of a half. No team ever scored and then kicked off, making it one of the rarest statistical anomalies in NFL history. Given the nature of the game today, it's highly unlikely this will ever happen again. The time a refereeing error changed the Super Bowl. A blown call in the Super Bowl was so bad, the NFL later admitted it was wrong. In Super Bowl 40, 2006, the Seattle Seahawks faced the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the game was filled with controversial penalties that heavily favored Pittsburgh. One of the worst was a phantom holding call that wiped out a key Seahawks touchdown. Years later, former NFL referee Bill Levy publicly admitted that he and his crew made mistakes that affected the game's outcome. It remains one of the most debated Super Bowl officiating performances in history. The NFL team that forgot to bring their helmets. An NFL team once forgot to pack their helmets for a game. In 1964, the San Diego Chargers traveled to play the Buffalo Bills, only to realize their helmets were left behind. With no backup plan, the Chargers borrowed helmets from local high school teams just to take the field. Despite the equipment mishap, they won the game, proving that sometimes it's not about the gear, it's about the players. The longest NFL drive that didn't score. An NFL team once held the ball for over 13 minutes without scoring any points. In 2002, the Tennessee Titans put together an amazing 19-play, 87-yard drive against the Baltimore Ravens. The drive lasted 13 minutes and 27 seconds, eating up almost an entire quarter of game time. But after all that effort, the Titans missed a field goal, making it the longest drive in NFL history to end with 0 points. The NFL game that had 2 halftime shows. An NFL game once had 2 separate halftime performances, by accident. In 2013, the Chicago Bears and Baltimore Ravens faced off in a game that was delayed for nearly 2 hours due to severe weather. When play resumed, both teams finished the second quarter, but because of the long delay, officials gave them another halftime break. This led to the bizarre situation of 2 halftimes in the same game, making it one of the strangest delays in NFL history. The quarterback who never threw a pass. An NFL quarterback once played an entire season without attempting a single pass. In 1997, backup quarterback Joe Webb was on the Minnesota Vikings roster for all 16 games. Despite being listed as a quarterback, he was mostly used on special teams and never threw a single pass the entire season. It remains one of the strangest stat lines in NFL history, a quarterback who never actually played quarterback. The time a game was delayed by a lawn sprinkler. An NFL game was once stopped because the stadium sprinklers turned on mid-play. In 2011, during a game between the Miami Dolphins and Carolina Panthers, the automatic sprinkler system at Sun Life Stadium suddenly activated in the middle of a drive. Players dodged water sprays as referees scrambled to stop play. After a few minutes of confusion and some wet uniforms, the sprinklers were shut off and the game resumed. The Super Bowl trophy that got dented. A Super Bowl trophy was once accidentally dented by a baseball. After the New England Patriots won Super Bowl 53, 2019, tight end Rob Gronkowski decided to have some fun during the victory celebration. While his teammates were using the Lombardi Trophy as a prop for a baseball warm-up, Gronkowski used it as a bat and bunted a pitch. The ball left a permanent dent in the trophy, making it one of the only Super Bowl trophies ever damaged during a celebration. The game that had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns back-to-back. An NFL game once featured 2 kickoff return touchdowns on consecutive plays. In 2012, the Baltimore Ravens and Denver Broncos faced off in a playoff game that started with pure chaos. The Broncos returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, electrifying the crowd, but on the very next play, the Ravens answered with their own kickoff return touchdown. It was one of the rarest sequences in NFL history. 2 touchdowns, 0 offensive plays. The NFL player who played with a broken neck. An NFL player once finished a game without realizing he had a broken neck. In 1978, Jack Youngblood of the Los Angeles Rams suffered a severe neck injury during a game but continued playing. It wasn't until after the season that doctors discovered he had been playing with a fractured vertebra in his neck. Youngblood was already famous for playing an entire Super Bowl with a broken leg, but this cemented his status as one of the toughest players in NFL history. The time a fan ran a 40-yard dash faster than an NFL player. A fan once ran a faster 40-yard dash than a professional NFL player while wearing jeans. During the 2019 NFL Combine, prospect Richie James ran the 40-yard dash in 4.60 seconds, a solid but unspectacular time for a receiver. Shortly after, a fan attending the event challenged himself to beat that time and ran a 4.50 second dash in jeans and sneakers. His performance shocked everyone, proving that some fans might be faster than they look. The NFL team that once had no fans at a game. An NFL team once played a home game with 0 fans in the stands. In 2015, the Baltimore Ravens and Jacksonville Jaguars were scheduled to play in Baltimore, but civil unrest in the city forced officials to close the stadium to the public. The game went on as planned, but with no fans in attendance, players could hear everything, even the referees' conversations. It remains the only NFL game ever played in an empty stadium with no spectators. The time a bird blocked a field goal. An NFL kicker once had his field goal blocked by a bird. During a 1997 game between the Tennessee Oilers and Cincinnati Bengals, kicker Al Del Greco lined up for a routine field goal attempt. Just as the ball was kicked, a pigeon flew directly into its path, deflecting the ball and causing the kick to miss. It's one of the only known times in NFL history that an animal interfered with a live play. The time a team played without a head coach. An NFL team once had to play an entire game without their head coach. In 2020, the Cleveland Browns were set to face the Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff game when head coach Kevin Stefanski tested positive for COVID-19. With no time to adjust, the Browns played the game without their head coach on the sideline. Despite the chaos, Cleveland shocked the Steelers, winning their first playoff game in 26 years. The only punter to be named Super Bowl MVP. A punter was once named Super Bowl MVP, the only time it has ever happened. In Super Bowl VII, 1973, Washington's punter Ray Guy was so dominant that his kicks completely changed the game's momentum. He pinned the opposing Miami Dolphins deep in their own territory multiple times, flipping the field and keeping Washington in the game. To this day, no other punter or kicker has ever won Super Bowl MVP. The longest pick six in NFL history. An NFL player once returned an interception 108 yards for a touchdown, the longest in history. In 2008, Ed Reed of the Baltimore Ravens intercepted a pass in his own end zone against the Philadelphia Eagles. Instead of taking a knee, Reed ran the ball back 108 yards for a touchdown, weaving through defenders the entire way. To this day, it remains the longest interception return for a touchdown in NFL history. The NFL player who played in both a Super Bowl and World Series. One athlete competed in both the Super Bowl and the World Series, an achievement no one has matched. Deion Sanders, known as Prime Time, played cornerback in the NFL and outfield in Major League Baseball at the same time. He helped the Atlanta Braves reach the 1992 World Series and later played in Super Bowl 29, 1995 with the San Francisco 49ers, winning a championship. To this day, he remains the only athlete to play in both championship events. The Super Bowl that had to use backup lights. A Super Bowl once nearly went dark, forcing the stadium to use emergency lighting. During Super Bowl 47, 2013, the Baltimore Ravens were dominating the San Francisco 49ers when half the stadium's power went out. For 34 minutes, players stood around in confusion as officials scrambled to restore the lights. The outage completely shifted the momentum. After play resumed, the 49ers staged a huge comeback, but the Ravens still held on to win 34-31. The NFL team that played 2 games in 1 week. An NFL team once played 2 regular season games in the same week. In 1932, the Portsmouth Spartans, who later became the Detroit Lions, played a game on Sunday and then had to suit up again just 4 days later on Thursday. This was long before Thursday night football became common, and players had almost no time to recover. Despite the brutal schedule, they won both games, proving their toughness in an era before modern sports science. The NFL coach who never played football. One of the greatest NFL coaches never played a single down of football. Bill Belichick, the mastermind behind the New England Patriots dynasty, never played football at the college or professional level. Instead, he studied film, worked his way up through coaching ranks, and became a 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach. His success proves that football genius isn't limited to those who played the game. The longest game-winning field goal in NFL history. An NFL kicker once won a game with a record-breaking 66-yard field goal. In 2021, Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens lined up for a 66-yard kick against the Detroit Lions as time expired. The ball hit the crossbar and bounced through, setting the record for the longest game-winning field goal in NFL history. Tucker's legendary boot secured the Ravens' victory and cemented his place as one of the best kickers ever. The time an NFL player played in 5 decades. One NFL player suited up in 5 different decades, a record that may never be broken. George Blanda played from 1949 to 1975, spanning the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Starting as a quarterback and later becoming a kicker, Blanda retired at age 48, making him one of the oldest players in NFL history. His incredible career longevity remains one of the most unbreakable records in football. The only team to go 0-16 twice. One NFL team suffered the worst season twice, finishing 0-16 2 times. The Detroit Lions, 2008, and the Cleveland Browns, 2017, are the only teams to ever go winless in a full 16-game season. But the Lions made history, in a bad way, when they became the first team to achieve the dreaded 0-16 record. The Browns matched their feat nearly a decade later, proving that some seasons are just meant to be forgotten. The time an NFL game was played on a Wednesday. An NFL game was once played on a Wednesday, something that almost never happens. In 2020, a game between the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers was originally scheduled for Thanksgiving night. However, due to COVID-19 complications, the game was postponed multiple times until it was finally played on a Wednesday afternoon. It became the first NFL game played on a Wednesday in over 80 years. The Super Bowl ticket that sold for $500,000. A single Super Bowl ticket once sold for an eye-watering $500,000. For Super Bowl 56, 2022, between the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals, a luxury VIP seat near midfield at SoFi Stadium set the record for the most expensive ticket ever sold. With prices soaring due to limited seating and high demand, this ticket cost more than some houses. The time an NFL player forgot his pants. An NFL player once showed up to a game without his football pants. In 2019, wide receiver Golden Tate arrived at MetLife Stadium for a game only to realize he had forgotten to pack his pants. With no time to spare, the equipment staff had to scramble to find a replacement pair before kickoff. Luckily, he suited up in time, but it remains one of the funniest pre-game mishaps in NFL history. The NFL game that had no extra points. An NFL game once ended without a single extra point attempt, something incredibly rare. In 2014, the Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars played a game where every touchdown was followed by a 2-point conversion attempt or a missed kick. Not a single extra point was attempted, making it one of the few games in history where the standard pat, point after touchdown, was never used. The time an NFL game ended in a 2-0 score. An NFL game once ended with a final score of 2-0, the lowest possible score in football. In 1938, the Chicago Bears faced the Green Bay Packers in a game that turned into a defensive slugfest. The only points came from a safety, making it one of the rarest scorelines in league history. To this day, it remains one of the few times an NFL game finished with just 2 points on the scoreboard. The player who won a Super Bowl without playing a single snap. An NFL player once won a Super Bowl ring without playing a single snap all season. In 2015, backup quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo was part of the New England Patriots championship team, but never stepped onto the field during the entire season, including the Super Bowl. Despite 0 snaps played, he still received a Super Bowl ring as a member of the winning roster. It's proof that sometimes being in the right place at the right time still makes you a champion. The only team to win a Super Bowl without leading in regulation. One NFL team won the Super Bowl without ever leading in regulation. In Super Bowl 51, 2017, the New England Patriots trailed the Atlanta Falcons 28-3 before mounting the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. They never led at any point in regulation, but after forcing overtime, they scored on the first possession to win 34-28. It remains the only Super Bowl where the winning team didn't hold the lead until the final play. Conclusion. Congratulations! You've just powered through 100 mind-blowing football facts, uncovering some of the most shocking, bizarre, and unbelievable moments in the history of the game. From record-breaking feats to plays that defy logic, football has once again proven that it's far more than just a sport. It's a spectacle of surprises waiting to unfold. But here's the thing about football, it never stops evolving. For every crazy fact you've heard, there are countless more waiting to be discovered. Maybe this audiobook has deepened your love for the game, or maybe it's made you appreciate the wild unpredictability of football even more. Either way, one thing is certain, the next unbelievable moment is always just one play away. The beauty of football is that the game is never truly over. There's always another record to be broken, another impossible comeback, another play that makes fans everywhere say, "Did that really just happen?" So as you finish this audiobook, don't think of it as the final whistle. Think of it as the start of a whole new drive toward more jaw-dropping football moments. Stay curious, stay excited, and remember, the greatest stories in football are the ones we haven't seen yet. Acknowledgements. Creating 100 mind-blowing football facts has been an incredible journey, one filled with passion, perseverance, and more game replays than I can count. While my name may be on this audiobook, it wouldn't exist without the support, inspiration, and contributions of some truly amazing people. First, a huge thank you to football fans, historians, and trivia buffs who keep the sport's greatest and strangest moments alive. Your passion for the game and its unpredictable magic has been a constant source of inspiration, and this audiobook is a celebration of the wild stories you've uncovered. To my family and friends, thank you for patiently listening to my endless discussions about record-breaking plays, impossible comebacks, and the quirkiest moments in football history. Your encouragement and ability to humor my excitement kept me going every step of the way. To my listeners, this audiobook is for you. Whether you're here for the laughs, jaw-dropping moments, or the ultimate trivia tidbits to impress your fellow fans, your curiosity is what keeps football's legendary stories alive. You're the real MVPs. And finally, to the game of football itself, thank you for being as unpredictable as ever. From game-winning kicks to last-second miracles, you continue to give us moments we'll never forget. And I'm grateful for the chance to share just a few of them. Here's to football, the stories yet to be written, and the game we all love. About the author. I'm Felix Grayson, a storyteller at heart, driven by an insatiable curiosity for the strange, surprising, and downright unpredictable moments in sports. I've always been fascinated by the wildest and most unbelievable tales from the world of football, and that passion led me to create 100 mind-blowing football facts, a collection designed to entertain, amaze, and spark wonder in football fans of all ages. When I'm not digging through archives or chasing down the next shocking gridiron moment, you can usually find me exploring stadiums across the country, devouring sports biographies, and pondering life's greatest mysteries over a game day snack. I believe in the magic of the game and the power of a great story. Football is unpredictable. It keeps us on the edge of our seats, delivering moments we'll never forget. That's why I created this audiobook, to take you on a journey through some of the craziest, most unbelievable moments in football history. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the ride.